Yeah, I think it's like, it's very deceptively sweet and nice, but I think it changes keys so fast between such a little amount of time, and it's supposed to like represent kind of like how crazy I felt, especially like my sophomore year, like balancing personal life with musical life, and it's also, I wrote it as a waltz because it's kind of like to represent that theme of like always dancing with, like, I guess insanity. I sound really crazy right now.
Must be honored to I love this. Dancing with insanity. My kind of conclusion.
You're like always on the edge. You don't know, like, one minute it could be like really beautiful and you're in a great major key, and then the next minute you're not.
Yeah.
And like, I think
like
that's like
Thursday's exam. Yeah. Okay. Well, then we're going to try losing ground and see if we don't get lost. Making a very old style fresh and interesting. Having said that, there are some awkwardnesses that perhaps Caroline could bring to your attention. Why don't you come up here? Or put those in. nature of the piece. Yeah, it was really fun to do that. One of the things that they're having a private moment about is the whole idea of writing in an idiomatic way for the instrument. And I can usually tell when someone is a pianist. Certainly I can tell if they're a violist or not. And so they're talking about that. So any suggestions for us of the performance? Tempo, articulation?
Okay, the articulations were really, really good.
Okay.
And I thought it could have been a little bit slower.
Okay.
But I think it was great. It was really weird hearing it live and not like.
It was really great playing it live too.
Yeah, thank you so much. It sounded great.
So no other suggestions?
For the 16th notes in the piano, like
Yes.
to kind of like, especially when they like reach the peaks, to really like savor those moments.
Okay.
And I guess that's about it. Yeah, it's kind of like.
So a little slower. A lot of the times I took the sweet and tenderly marking you wrote, and I sort of internalized that because you've written a very beautiful line without any articulations, any slurs, which is fine. But if I had done exactly what it said, it would have been more like this, which sounds like the Suzuki Book 1 kind of thing. But I saw sweet and tenderly, and I heard what she was doing, and I thought, like that. So it's still without slurs, but it's more connected. And I also started thinking about the phrasing. So one thing you might want to think of is studying some scores of string writing. That'll really help. Also studying the works of Brahms are great since he's a pianist. A lot of his slurs were phrasings, but not necessarily bowings.
Okay.
And so you'll see how in a violin sonata of Brahms, they'll change slurs, but they won't change the overall shape. Kind of like the last piece that we're doing in Mickey's piece. So these are just sort of some things. So I guess for me the only, not criticism, but the thing I'd love to see you develop more is your relationship with the performer that you haven't met yet.
Okay.
You know, that you may never meet before it's played. And that's a tricky one to develop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the more you put in there, that'll really help. Okay? Great. Anyone have any suggestions or comments or?
I wanted to know maybe if they could, the two of them could share a little synopsis of their conversation.
What you guys were talking about.